So I would like to welcome all of you to the Michigan Works Association 2020 Annual Conference. My name is Christine Klee. I am the Communication Specialist with the Michigan Works Association. On behalf of the staff at the association and all of our sponsors, we want to thank you for being part of this conference. This session is titled Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, more commonly known as SNAP, Food Assistance Support for College Success. I would like to give a big shout out to Oakland County Michigan Works for sponsoring today's workshop. Our sponsors make this conference happen, and we're very thankful for their support. Along with our sponsors, our exhibitors are also given their time to be part of our event. Please be sure to visit their exhibit booths during designated exhibit hall times. So today, before we begin our session, just a few housekeeping items I'd like to share with you. The session will have a Q&A. Please hold your questions to the end. Just enter your questions in the chat, and we will answer those at the end of this presentation. We are really eager to get your feedback about this conference and this session, so please take a few moments after this session to complete a short survey. The link for the survey will be posted in the chat area. The presentations will be made available after the conference on the Michigan Works Association website. So now I'd like to turn it over for introductions to our lovely presenters.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tracey Taylor. I'm a higher education consultant with the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Employment and Training Office. Sheree, are you going to introduce?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sheree Price, a higher education consultant with Labor and Economic Opportunity, ENC.
Hi, my name is Dawn Sweeney. I am the SNAP administrator for the state of Michigan.
Great. Thank you to my fellow presenters. As Christine mentioned, I really want to thank everyone for participating in our session today. I hope that you will find the information from our session informative. And also, again, if you have questions, we would strongly encourage you to ask. This is a really exciting initiative between the two partnering agencies, the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, as well as the Department of Health and Human Services. And so we're eager to get the word out to our students and families about this opportunity. And so again, I want to thank you for participating, and please, if you have any questions, even after today's session, please take a moment to send us an email or reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer your questions or direct you to the right place where you can get your questions answered. So if you go on to the next slide, Christine, today's session is, we're gonna cover just an overview of the partnership, the SNAP partnership, and then we're also gonna talk about what the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, is. And then we'll give an overview of the eligibility and student verification process. So as I mentioned, this opportunity is new to our two departments. Earlier this spring, there was lots of discussion, and I say that there was swirl going on about the number of college students who were enrolled in career and technical assistance programs, or enrolled in college in general, and that may not have access to food and may have food insecurities. And so with that swirl came some of the discussion as to how we could meet that need. And the two agencies came together to address the need and look at, and so I have this picture of these two, the puzzle pieces, because it was puzzling as to what we could do to address food insecurities on campus. And so we decided, the two agencies came together. Our agency in particular in Leo oversees the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, which is Perkins 5. Perkins 5 is, or Perkins in general, is the career and technical education funding that goes to community colleges and universities to enhance worker or employment support through career and technical education. And now with students who are enrolled in those types of programs, they lead to high skill, high wage employment. give students the opportunity to earn skills and certificates much sooner than a four-year degree, and perhaps give them the opportunity to enter into the workforce. So this was the perfect place for us to target. Also, Christine, if you'll go on to the next slide, the Farm Bill also presented an opportunity because it gave more allowance for student status based on Perkins 5. So those of you who are familiar with the Farm Bill prior to 2018 may understand it that students were only eligible as student status or meeting student status criteria if they were working 20 hours a week, had a disability, were caring for a child, and other criteria eligibility. Whereas with the Farm Bill, this expanded, I guess, if you will, the eligibility to allow for students who were attending a two-year degree granting institution at least half-time. In Michigan, that two-year program can also be at any one of our of the three four-year institutions that are also two-year degree granting, such as Ferris State University, Lake Superior State University, and Northern Michigan University. They not only offer four-year degrees, but they also offer associate's degrees within career and technical education. So students who are enrolled in those programs at least half-time and or in courses that are associated with high priority occupations, which again lead to employment, they meet the definition for eligibility under the food assistance program without having to meet any other eligibility requirements. And then if I can go on to the next slide, Christine. So as we mentioned, to be eligible for the food assistance program under this new policy, students must be attending a two-year degree granting institution at least half-time and be considered by the institution to be pursuing career and technical education under Perkins 5. Other eligibility is determined by the Department of Health and Human Services specialists, but I think this has really opened the door for there to be a connection between students who are enrolled in these types of programs and may not be aware of what their options are as it relates to services offered by the Department of Health and Human Services. And so we've really been working to get the word out to our students in particular to make sure that they are aware of what opportunities are available to them, and that there are some other eligibility requirements. But students, we want to just target them, and then they can make their own choices or talk with a specialist to be able to determine their eligibility further. And then just to give you an overview, I mentioned a little bit about the Strengthening Career and Technical Education Act, or what is commonly known as Perkins 5. And Perkins 5 is funded by the U.S. Department of Education. The purpose of the act is to more fully engage or more fully develop the academic knowledge and technical and employability skills of secondary and post-secondary career and technical education students. So those students will again be enrolled in courses such as welding, nursing, those careers or those majors, if you will, programs of study that lead specifically to employment. So unlike within the liberal arts programs, where a student can choose a variety of different avenues for their employment, career and technical education is pretty straightforward. If you go to school to become or study in the nursing program, the likelihood that you're going to become a nurse is pretty strong. Whereas if you study in the area of the sciences, you might choose any career area. So this really allows us to target those students who are indeed working towards high skill, high wage employment, which is also one of the criteria for participation in the food assistance program. I mentioned also that in Michigan, all 28 colleges have, or community colleges, excuse me, have Perkins CTE programming, along with those three universities that I mentioned, as well as one tribal college, Bay Mills Community College, which is located in the UP. Those 32 institutions all offer career and technical education. Our students that we are targeting are enrolled in career and technical education programs. Our office is involved in the verification. The Perkins office is involved in the verification for students to determine their eligibility or their enrollment within the program, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So I'm going to turn it over now to Dawn, and she's going to talk a little bit about what the supplemental nutrition assistance program is.
Hello, everybody. It's really nice to be here with you to talk about this. I'm very excited about this. Our administration is very focused on increasing SNAP access to as many individuals in the state of Michigan as we can. And this new allowance from the Farm Bill really does help us target a population that may not necessarily have been eligible for traditional assistance. So the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is also known as the Food Assistance Program in Michigan. So you might hear it as SNAP or FAP. It is, it used to be known as food stamps. And we use an electronic benefit transfer card, the EBT card, which you may also know as the bridge card because it's got a picture of the Mackinac Bridge on it. Next screen, please. So here are some reasons a student might be eligible outside of being in a Perkins program. Based on their age or their disability status, if they're a parent or a caregiver, if they're employed at least a week, in employment and a student or receiving work-study funds, if they're a recipient of our TANF program, which is the Family Independence Program, or if they are enrolled in training programs and an employment agency with the state. Next slide. Thank you. So as Tracey mentioned, we now have the ability for student status, if a student's in a 2-year degree program, at least half time, and is identified by that program as enrolled in the career or technical education program, they would meet the definition of eligible student for FAP without needing to do any other student eligibility. That means they don't have to work 20 hours a week. They don't have to be a caregiver. They don't have to be receiving any sort of TANF program. Being in the Perkins program itself and being actively enrolled is enough to grant them student status. And as long as they met all other eligibility criteria, they would be eligible for SNAP benefits. So here again, we just kind of go through the details. So as you're working with students, you might have a student that comes in and says, I received TANF and I received food assistance. You could then have a conversation with them and say that, well, you're in a Perkins program, so you're also eligible for that, which would then allow them to continue to be a student status through the lifetime of that program, even if their TANF assistance ended. In Michigan, TANF is a very short-term program. It's a 48-month program. So we often find even younger individuals who are in community college or just starting their careers or their education have already used up a lot of that time. So whereas they have a limit for their TANF assistance, they would still be eligible for food assistance. So for them to be eligible as a student, they must meet one of these criteria. Obviously receiving TANF, which is FIP, enrolled in an institution of higher education is a part of a job training program or the Trade Readjustment Act, which is its own eligibility criteria itself. So if you have a student that comes in under one of those programs, they would be eligible for student status as well in food assistance. Or enrolled in the Food Assistance Employment Training Program, which is through the Michigan Works agencies, obviously. And they could be part of the Perkins program. They could be in some, remedial courses, basic ed, English as a second language, or in an employment training program for low-income households that's operated by the state. And for Michigan, those usually go through the MWA. We don't have other agencies doing that. And even our SNAP Plus programming is through other agencies, but via the Michigan Works agency. So it kind of all funnels through the MWAs. Or any other state or local employment training program, which in Michigan, we funnel all of those through the Michigan Works agencies, like I said. If someone is physically or mentally unfit for employment and they're a student, they would be eligible based on their physical or mental disability. Obviously, that phrasing is the federal phrasing. we'd like to be a little proactive and say that they, have a disability, not unfit for employment. If they're already working 20 hours a week and in community college, they are eligible. However, if you have a student that comes in and says, I've lost my job, that's what we've seen recently, or, I'm not getting 20 hours, it would be, very beneficial to review their eligibility for a Perkins program, because they could still maintain a student and not lose those benefits. Same thing with self-employment. And then on the job training program, which again, in Michigan, we have those organized through the Michigan Works agencies. We don't really do those outside of those programs. Or participating in work study. So we have a small number of students that are in work study. In general, a lot of the community college programs don't offer work study, just because that's not the way they're formatted. But we do have some, and we are able to assist them as well. But again, they may also be eligible, even in the work study, for Perkins. And Perkins, again, is a stronger exemption and ability to receive the food assistance. So it would be beneficial to that student to review that eligibility and have them apply under Perkins, as opposed to work study program. Here's some other reasons that someone could be in student status if they don't meet Perkins. If they are a caregiver to a group member under age 6, so perhaps they, they babysit some younger child in their group, they could be considered eligible, and are in school, they could be considered eligible for student status. Similar, they give physical care to a child age 6 to 11, in which there's not adequate childcare. Are there a single person enrolled in higher education that cares for a dependent under age 12? Some of these individuals would be receiving TANF, but like I said, we have TANF time limits. So these could be individuals that still have children under age 12, are not receiving TANF, but are in student status. Or this could also be someone who is not the parent, such as a grandparent or an aunt or uncle who is taking care of the child. They would still be eligible for student status. So as you can see, there are many reasons, and they all have their own criteria. For us, what we're focusing on is Perkins, because it is a very straightforward approval, and it does allow the client to be eligible as long as they're enrolled in that Perkins program period of time. So verification is required. We require verification at application and redetermination, and for food assistance, we have a 12-month redetermination period. So that means if our client comes in and applies, and we verify that they're in Perkins, we don't have to check that until the next year when we do their recertification, unless they indicate a change has happened. And that includes natural school breaks too. So if they don't go to school during the summer, they're still eligible as a Perkins student because it's a natural break in the program. So, it was a little tough when we rolled this out in March, and we were obviously in the COVID world. So in order to try to help our clients, what we did was, if a client could not reach the school or didn't have the verification of Perkins eligibility, we would, the DHS worker would reach out to our staff, who would reach out to the Perkins staff through Leo, and would then, help get that verification from the community college. Moving forward with things going back to somewhat normal, we would feel like, students would be able to, they would either have a Perkins documentation that they could provide us, or they could get one easily from their school. If a student is struggling to get that information, we will still reach out in the older process we had, which was our employment training coordinator reached out to Tracey and Sheree and their staff, who then reached out to community college for that verification. But moving forward, we feel like it might be more of a standard practice where the student can either bring in something they have that says they're enrolled in Perkins, or we have a form that we will issue to them that they can take to the school and get completed. And the basically it's the school verifying that the client is enrolled and that they're in a Perkins program, and then they just sign that for verification for us. And that's good for the entire year of that client's benefits, unless they report a change to us. So I'm going to turn it over to Sheree in just a minute, but I wanted to say that we've had a great start. It's been very successful. I feel like it's going to grow. We, with the new school year starting and with everybody, somewhat engaging back in school or back to normal practices, we are very happy to be able to increase this level of benefits for clients. And we're really grateful to the partnership we had with Leo and the Perkins staff at the community colleges in order to really pull in some more clients, and some clients that probably have been overlooked because they don't meet our traditional SNAP criteria. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sheree, who is going to talk a little bit further.
Thank you, Dawn. I apologize if there's echo going on. I don't know what's with my video, my voice. I'd like to talk a little bit about the successes that we have experienced with SNAP and the partnership that we have with MPHHS. Currently, we have verified approximately 200 students who may be eligible for the food assistance program. And as Dawn indicated, we have verified those either by a student providing their own documentation of enrollment in a Perkins program, or the verification has been secured through Leo. Leo provides verification by contacting the institution which the student says they attend, and the institution will provide verification that that student is actually enrolled in classes. That verification is sent back to MDHHS for the student's file. Also, the verification process has been very easy and very seamless, and been a very positive experience for the student, because if a student does not have access to the institution, we are able to provide that verification for the student so that they won't lose their benefits. Another success is that this initiative supports the Governor Whitman's initiative, the 60 by 30 initiative, which helps to accomplish a statewide goal to increase the number of Michigan adults by 60% who have certification or degree to eliminate the talent shortage in Michigan. Next slide. So as with successes, we do have some challenges that we have. Again, we talked about students not being able to secure their own verification because they may not be able to have transportation to the institution. Some of the institutions are closed so that students do not have access to the college campus. Some students don't have internet access, so they cannot secure online verification on their own. So that's where we come in to help support that. The other challenge that we've had is making sure that students know about the food assistance program and eligibility criteria for them. Again, don't have access to college campus, to the internet, that transportation, may not know that they are now eligible for SNAP and don't have to secure the 20-hour week in order to receive that. So we have a challenge of making sure that students are aware of the resources that are available to them. And with this workshop, this is another avenue where we can share the information, share the resources, and you help us to spread the word to those students and families who may be eligible for this program. Next slide. What are our next steps with this initiative? The next steps, we have collaboration with MDHHS to provide additional communication to form of press releases, toolkits, word of mouth, any way that we can get the word out and spread that students are eligible for this initiative, for these services. Leo is in the process of developing a toolkit which will go out to staff to help them to promote the word. We're talking about enhanced web language on both DHHS and Leo websites, and promoting social media messages and emails to students as well as businesses and industries. Next slide. This has been a wonderful initiative, as Dawn and Tracey has indicated. We have seen a lot of success and a lot of communication between potential students, either asking about SNAP benefits, inquiring how they can become involved and get resources with this initiative. And so we are very, very pleased that this is working, and students will not be hindered or hampered because of food insecurities to continue their educational pursuits. So with that message, we hope that you will share these resources with individual students that you come in contact with. And if there are questions or they need further information, this is our contact information. Myself, Tracey, and Dawn Sweeney. Please feel free to have them email us, and we will provide the information that's needed for them. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I saw there was lots of activity going on in the chat. I'm glad to know that this conference is going so well for so many people. There was lots of hellos, and it's nice to see you virtually. And we saw several of our colleagues on, so we want to thank them for participating in the session and everything. Is there anything or any questions that we can answer for anyone? So it does look like someone asked, how do they get a copy of the PowerPoint? And I do believe, Christine, can you take that? I think that there is a way that the association is providing copies of the PowerPoint.
Yes, after the conference, will be posted on our website. So we're waiting till the conference ends to share all the PowerPoints. Oh, it looks like we just have another question come in. Are there any of these benefits threatened by the proposed legislation?
Dawn, no, we do have some support. The state supports our intent with student status, and because this is a federal clarification, we are within our window to do so. So I think we should be fine. And the benefits are available all year, Suzanne. So if a client comes in, this month and applies, and we approve them, then we would not look to review their eligibility until next August, when their recertification was due, unless the client provided notice to us that they were no longer enrolled in school. You're welcome.
You're welcome. It's good to see you, Suzanne, virtually.
This is Dawn. I did want to just add that in the PowerPoint, there's a link to our DHS webpage, which talks about the eligibility for all our programs. We do have the TANF program, which is cash assistance. We have food assistance, but we also have childcare, state emergency relief, and medical insurance. And once you start talking to students or having them come in, they may have some questions on those other things. That site will help you kind of guide them, give you some information. It'll also give a direct link to how they can apply online for benefits.
And if I could also just give a plug, we're in the process of updating our website, but if I could just give a shameless career and technical education. I know many of you are working with students who are interested in pursuing short-term opportunities, opportunities for certification or two-year degrees. And this is the perfect time for upskilling, especially in light of some of the areas of unemployment that our state has experienced. And so if I could just give a shameless plug to our community colleges who have wonderful short and intermediate programs available to your clients to participate. The upside is that some of those programs have open admission, which means that it doesn't have to be at the beginning of the school year. But also, it's a great way, as I just said, to for those clients that you may be working with that are interested in upskilling or having new opportunities for certification. So, again, if you have any questions about career and technical education, please don't hesitate to contact Sheree or I to talk about Perkins programs. And then I see that it says here, you said that 169 are participating. Actually, we're over 200. Sheree said we've done more than 200 verifications. And the door, I think, Dawn, you would agree with me, and Sheree, the door is wide open. We are accepting clients and students on a regular basis. If a student comes to us and says that they think they might be eligible for benefits, then they are eligible to apply. And then we see what comes from there. But we have seen an influx since school started. We've seen an influx of students seeking out food assistance benefits.
Yes, and there's the message indicates that it's 169 participating. That means that there are 169 that have been verified as eligible to receive food assistance program.
And they can apply anytime. So even if they're 3 months into their program and they realize they need some benefits, or you have a conversation, we don't, it doesn't have to be just at the start of their school year. They can apply at any time. They can also, ask the worker to review their case if they, like I said, they lost their 20-hour-a-week job or some sort of status change, then we can review for them being enrolled for Perkins.
And I think one of the other things we need to mention, there was a workshop going on for frontliners, and those individuals who are involved in those programs, especially those who are in CPE-related programs, may also be eligible for food assistance programs that need to get the word out to them so that they can apply for the services and resources.
One final thing, this is Dawn. Any sort of school tuition reimbursement or support in that way does not count against their benefits. It's not counted as income for that client. So that would also be helpful.
Christine, time flies when you're having a good time, huh?
Are there any other questions that anyone has? All right, so in the chat, I am going to include a link to some resources about SNAP. So if you do want just a flyer, a little more, like a little handout about SNAPs and Perkins, please check that out. The link is in the chat. If there are no more questions, this ends our presentation for today. I would like to thank our presenters. We really appreciate everyone's time. I really hope you guys have some great takeaways and enjoy the feature of the conference. Thank you for attending the Michigan Works Annual Conference today. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Like I said earlier, we really appreciate your feedback. So earlier in the chat, I did include a survey. So if you could please complete that survey about today's session. The main event chat as well, there's going to be a survey about the whole day that we would really appreciate you completing as well. So that is it for today. So if you want to stick around and talk to our presenters, they can definitely stay that. But we're all done for this session. So thank you so much for attending.